And we do wish you a good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped on the tapping.
You cut me off.
I cut off the tap dance. I'm so sorry. Get down off your
I'm used to it. I'm used to it.
You're listening to Power Talks, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And you know what? We like to have a little fun, too. I bet they haven't noticed that, though.
You think?
You think?
I think. Good morning.
Good morning
to
everybody.
the
It is a beautiful morning. It's second day of spring now. Did you balance your egg yesterday like I told you to? You were supposed to do that and send me a picture. I don't have any eggs here in the office, so I couldn't do that.
Was I supposed to balance it on my head?
No. You balanced the egg on the table on its head.
No wonder it didn't work.
Yeah, but your hair's shiny today. And
Oh, I didn't do that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were serious.
No.
Well, we watched last night as I'm trying to find all my papers here, as the bomber was making his final hurrah. He just made a little too many bombs and too many mistakes, and they caught him. And he is now history, but they're going to have to backtrack and figure out, was it a hate crime? Why he actually did the bombings. And
well, there was some commentaries written. It wasn't on Facebook. I think it was on Reddit. And there was some statements. They took it down, and they didn't say it was him, but they think it's him. But it was something along the lines that he wanted to be recognized as someone like the Zodiac Killer, where you kill 5 or 6 people and they never know who you are, and give the police such a run for their money and so forth. So he was just whacked out. He was just a whacked out dude. He wasn't very good. And thank God he wasn't. I mean, certainly there could have been many, many other people that were injured or even killed, but.
And as we watched all that last night, and the talking heads were going, they're going to catch you, because in this day and time, they've got, especially like at the Goodwill, they have and FedEx, they have cameras everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's no way he's not going to get caught. So he wasn't very bright. He did have his face kind of sort of covered up, but not very bright. He got caught, and I think they knew who he was yesterday morning. I think they had figured it out throughout the day, and of course then he's planting bombs everywhere, trying to get his last hurrah in, I guess. And I thought it was kind of, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was kind of curious. Geraldo, who I really don't like anyway, he gets out there and he's, it's breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, and they say this is the one that was there at the Goodwill. This is him, and it is definitely another bomb from the same guy, da-da-da-da-da. And then they came out with a press conference and said, no, that it wasn't. And I think they did that to try and throw the guy off, but I could be wrong. Anyway, they got him, and he either blew himself up or he got shot, or both. So they've got him. They haven't, unless they've given the name now. The article I have does not have his name. He was a 24-year-old male, and I believe they said this morning on the news that he was a 24-year-old white male.
Right.
So anyway, he is history, and he's not going to be setting bombs anymore. But they do have a fear that he has some others set around out there, so they're asking people to be careful.
They did ID him. He's 24 years old. Mark Anthony Condit, Conditt. And let's see, they tracked him to the hotel in Round Rock, and I have customers in all of these areas, and so they did. Let me see real quick if there's anything that
he said he took off in a vehicle, then he hit a ditch. Go ahead.
But they really don't say much about him other than his name, so they did identify him.
They believe he was from and I'm probably going to mess this up, the Pflugerville area. Is that how you pronounce that? Pflugerville area? It's PFLU.
Shoo, we don't have to beep that one.
I'm just telling you. Silly girl. Anyway, he is done, and he's history. So let's hope nobody decides to take up where he's left off, and that there really are no more bombs around. But,
yeah, they really don't say anything more about him other than he is. The police did not name the bomber, but 2 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation identified him to NBC News as Mark Anthony Condit, and they do have a picture. I think they had a picture of him before I went to. Yeah, he has there's a picture up there. So
I saw. I just saw the pictures where he was in the FedEx there with the shipping.
He's a nice-looking kid. He's not a bad-looking kid. And, you kind of wonder what goes on behind the eyeballs and into the brains of, these kids and so forth. But, they're living out some sort of, I don't know.
Something. Well, and the gunman there in Maryland, we talked about that yesterday at the high school, and they just barely covered that they got him last night. I'd been waiting all day to hear something. Of course, I sit in here all day, so I didn't. I was doing other things, but he was actually, and of course, that one reason they're probably not going to make a big deal out of it is that the police that were the guard that was there at the school is the one that took him out. And that's why no more injuries or fatalities were there, was because they got him out and got him out quickly. And so he was just 17 years old. He's also a nice-looking young man. They have a picture from him when he was 14. Looks like such an innocent kid, But it says here that the gunman was opened fire at the Great Mills High School. And, of course, that was yesterday morning. And he was killed Tuesday after engaging an armed school resource officer. The shooter was Austin Wyatt Rollins. He was 17. Police said Rollins used a handgun to shoot a 16-year-old female student who was identified by family members as Jalen Wiley. She remains in ICU and is in life-threatening critical injuries.
Aww.
So anyway, why he did that, I don't know. Whoever knows, can you get into these kids' heads? Well,
they did say that there might be a personal relationship between the two. So,
broken hearts.
Broken hearts at such a tender age. But gold today, we're having a great day in gold today, although it is off the highs. We had gold up over $11 first thing this morning. It has fallen back a little bit. We're currently up $8 at $1,320. Silver was up 20 cents at $16.47 off the high of $16.58. So a good day for the precious metals, and a little pressure on the paper markets, but not a whole nothing to, we'll see how the end of the day goes, but Jerome Powell is expected to come out with an increase in rates today, and that's what I said. I said you're going to see pressure on gold and the precious metals leading up to the rate increase, and, we might even see a downward move in gold at the end of the day once he comes out and you get all these silly knee-jerk reactions done and so forth. But, again, there's issues with the spending bill that's supposed to be signed by Friday, and it's being stalled in Congress and so forth, so that probably has a little bit of impact also, because the numbers have to be discussed, and we're looking at a $1.3 trillion spending bill, so it's but numbers don't seem to mean anything anymore, because we're going to grow ourselves out of our problems. So spend, and then we can grow ourselves out of our problems. That's the theme and everything. But what I find really interesting is no one's talking about it. When's the last time, even on your mainstream media, even your conservative media, do you ever hear anybody talking about our debt?
They were last night on the omnibus bill. They were last night on Fox. In fact, they were interviewing a couple of the congressional members.
Yeah, I bet they're big. was there big discussion all about shutting down the government?
Oh yeah, they were talking about what they were, but then it kept breaking news going to the bomber, so they didn't get a whole lot discussed. But they were interviewing them, particularly, and she got interrupted as well. But I lost her name, Laura Ingraham, and she kind of went at one of them. So, because nobody is talking about it, and it's the same thing. So here we are. They're not going to defund Planned Parenthood. They're not going to defund Obamacare. And they're not going to do anything about that. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do everything that they were, and of course she was the wall, everything that President Trump was elected to do, and they were supposed to be taking care of that fact. It's not going to get done. So,
but I don't understand why. I don't understand why people are confused about it. Because the reason that can get done is because there's no money to. I mean,
well, there is no money, but there also is money. The fact that they are making money. They are making money on these deals. That's why they will not renege on some of these things, because they've already cut deals and they've got the money in their pocket.
Well, sure.
They've already made their deals with whoever these lobbyists
and companies. That means it's not going to change. That means it's not going to change.
Exactly.
So,
and they can make up all kinds of excuses and blah blah blah. And
Yep. I mean, hey, they since they canceled the debt ceiling back in September, they spent over $1 trillion. Our debt went from I don't have the numbers right in front of me, to 21. It's like 21 point. So, hey, we'll grow ourselves out of our problems. So it's temporary, ladies and gentlemen. It's temporary.
Let's just have a party. Let's just have a party. Yeah.
So taxes are going to go down, and we're going to work, and we're going to have increased wages, and unicorns are going to be flying over the rainbows every morning when we wake up. So
sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows.
So
yeah. It's crazy, and they're not doing a whole lot of talking about it. You're correct, especially on the mainstream media. But the Fox, at least Laura Ingraham was trying to cover that. That was a good part of what her program was supposed to be last night. But they were chasing down this bomber guy, and they kept interrupting to breaking news. Everything's breaking news.
They don't talk about the debt prior to the government shutting down. Then they'll talk about it.
No, they
don't talk about it before then. They don't talk about the problems before that.
That's just a minor thing. Come on. Don't make such a big deal out of a $21 trillion debt, Melody.
Plus our unfunded liabilities and our, you're looking at 80 plus, and there's even been reports of 200 trillion. So, but we don't have to count that. That's,
I ran out of fingers and toes a long time ago.
But what we are going to count today, we run in the special in the 90% silver quarters, brilliant uncirculated, and today we have $50 face value at $650. $650 for $50 face value, 90% quarters, brilliant uncirculated, and so that means you'd get 200 coins, and it's really a great deal. Beautiful coinage. So give us a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188.
All right.
It's in time.
It is. Oh, I hear music. Oh, we've already gone through the first segment. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann, we're going to be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Morning. I don't even know what day it is. Does anybody really care? Anyway, I want you to give your special one more time and your phone number.
$50 face value, 90% brilliant uncirculated quarters. They're absolutely beautiful. And for $50 face, it's $650. And you may call 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. And we have silver up 21 cents today, but this price is still based on what we were selling the other package for yesterday. So there is quite a bit of savings in these packages, and they are limited at this price, only because we saw silver up 21 cents today. But these are old prices, yesterday's prices today. So give Carla a call. She's waiting for to take orders for these specials. 800-375-4188.
All right. Well, we didn't talk yesterday about the robot cars, the victim, the pedestrian that was killed by the car that's driven automatically, and there was somebody in the driver's seat, but the car was on robot mode or whatever they call it. It was self-driving car. I'm a little bit skeptical about those things anyway. I always worry about somebody who doesn't want to drive their car. They just want to sit there and do something else, and you can't rely on a computer. We know how that goes when you rely on computers. But this is kind of a serious thing, and I guess it's going to, open up a big can of worms as to who's the one responsible. Is the car hit the pedestrian that came out in front of it suddenly. And, of course, you really shouldn't be walking in front of cars. But there was somebody in the driver's seat, and I would assume that you could still take over in the driver's seat, but I don't know.
Well, it's just like anything else. I think they could, but just like anything else, when you're basically a passenger, you really don't pay much. You're easily distracted. So I don't know if the physical driver in there is actually, being alert enough to maybe perhaps prevented it and so forth. And, people, pedestrians, I don't know if it was in a crosswalk or whatever, but, people nowadays, I mean, they see a pedestrian walkway, they don't even look half the time. They just go. Because they know they have the right of way. And it's especially down here in the summer when you have so many tourists in Ocean City and so forth. I mean, they just, they know, and they expect you to stop immediately and so forth. And a lot of people do get hit. So, we don't know, but I guess they're pulling off all the, there were tests of trucks, commercial vehicles actually being tested across the United States
to replace drivers,
driverless vehicles, but driverless trucks that are being tested now, to deliver goods and so forth. So I don't know if they're pulling them off the road. I don't know if they're Ubers. I don't know if they're another company. But I mean, I do expect we'll probably in the future live in the Jetson kind of a world.
I was just thinking of Jetsons. Yeah. I love that cartoon. I was just thinking about the Jetsons.
So I was. It's a pretty neat place to be, but I don't think they should be in the find some sort of a course. Put up a little city or go to a little, deserted town or something and test these vehicles out before you put them in main traffic and jeopardize people's lives, both pedestrians and drivers of other vehicles. So, Well,
in the report that I have says that the woman, they have it on video, and she went out. She basically walked right in front of the car, and she did it suddenly. And they said even if it had a regular driver, it'd have been hard to avoid this accident because she just wasn't watching, like you said, and she just walked right in front of the car. I always said that when you go downtown and and they have the stoplights and it's got the hand there to walk, the pedestrians, it's okay to cross, I always said they should put run on those because they don't last very long anyway, and they ought to put run instead of walk. But anyway, it's something we're going to be watching and kind of see what it turns out with that situation. But first one killed by a robot.
Trial and error. Trial and error.
The error on that one, wouldn't you?
I know. But, and, we'll just see how fast, technology is driving. I mean, I could remember having conversations with people, heck, in the mid-2000s, early 2000s, which is almost 20 years ago, where they would have some sort of, because our inabilities to travel, our infrastructure. I mean, when you look at Europe and they have these trains and, you can go from France to Germany in an hour and a half. Our ability, our transit is very poor. And we had often talked about maybe it'd be like monorails, to where, there'd be something in these roads that, you could put your car on and it would just guide you, long distance and high speeds to where you could get to point A to point B relatively quick. But, so I guess this is, it's really the robot drivers doesn't really show that it's quick. They're not going at any super speeds or anything like that. I'd rather have that than...
You'd rather have the super speed?
I'd rather have the super speed. So I could get to California in an hour.
Whoa.
So
I'm going to be flying there, and I'm not going to get there that quick.
But our infrastructure truly is very outdated, and the money we spent from September to now, I wish it would have been more of infrastructure spending, other than probably just going to the Defense Department and so forth for whatever we're doing. So, but anyway.
Yeah,
what's next?
What's next? Well, I thought this was kind of interesting, funny. I don't know. Ralph Peters. I don't know if you've ever watched him on Fox. He's one of their consultants. Well, he got mad and he quit, and it was very abruptly. And he's upset with the Fox News because of some of the hosts that have been going after the CIA and the FBI and the administration. And he says Mueller was a war hero and they're making him out to be a bad guy, and he's upset about it, and he thinks they're doing a lot of, well, what did he call it? He didn't call it, well, scaremongering. He didn't say fear-mongering, but scaremongering with the lurid warnings of deep state and all this and that. And I'm thinking, does he not have a clue? Because he's been in this. We've known long before they even had it named deep state that D.C. and our governing, I don't know how you put it, administrations are corrupt. We knew it a long time ago when Congress decided insider trading's okay for them. It's okay to take advantage of their positions. We knew back then that they were corrupt. And I don't care if Mueller was a war hero. The guy is on a witch hunt. They're going to drag this out. Regardless of what anybody thinks about it, they're spending taxpayer dollars, and they don't care how long it takes them or how much money they spend. But anyway, Peters is upset, and he quit. And he's upset, and he went at Fox News for, he didn't really name the hosts. I kind of know which ones he's talking about. It's probably Sean Hannity, because he goes at it pretty hard to heavy, and that's all he ever talks about. So sometimes I just have to turn him off because it was the same story last night, you know. But I thought it was kind of comical that he's sitting there defending Mueller because he's a war hero. That's kind of like everybody defending McCain because he was a war hero. Just because you did that honorably doesn't mean you live your life honorably. So anyway, I thought that was interesting.
And that's very true. And I really think both sides have taken these things to the extreme.
Absolutely.
And what's really funny is there was I don't know, I was watching one news program and they brought up Bill Clinton and even in his when he was defending himself, I mean, it was basically the same approach that this administration has taken, and even Bill Clinton when they were going after him, and he says it's a witch hunt, and it's funny to see the same terminology, the same, so it is a defense, and Clinton was brilliant in his defense. I mean, you have to say that. And I don't know if he was brilliant, but I don't know who was guiding him. Somebody, but
he had Hillary.
And I don't mean to make that as a compliment to Bill Clinton by any means. On a scale
there are lots of evil geniuses.
There's a lot of. So I wanted to get out of that one before I got crucified by callers. So, but anyway.
Well, and the witch hunt on him, which was not a witch hunt, was Whitewater.
Yeah.
But then we quit hearing about Whitewater, and we started hearing about all these women, and particularly Monica Lewinsky in the blue dress. And that's what came out. And he got in trouble for his lying, and he got impeached, and life went on as nothing had happened.
And lesson. That was a lesson.
And he promised never ever to do it again. Oh no, that didn't happen. Okay.
But anyway, so
he did get a black eye. His wife did give him a black eye.
But what was interesting when you were talking about Ralph Peters, I saw a headline about the world is descending into tyranny, and I pulled it up, and it was written by Ralph Peters. So, kind of odd.
He's the one that got suspended for like 2 weeks. He got slapped on the hand because this was about 3 years ago, because it was before the election, because he had called President Obama a name, and so they had to take him off the air for a couple of weeks and punish him. So apparently he doesn't think President Obama was a war hero. But anyway.
Hey, we have Neil on the phones. Let's go to Neil from Missouri. Good morning, Neil.
Hi, Neil. How are you today?
Oh, doing all right. Staying warm. A little chilly this morning. Ice on the water. So
yeah. But the sun is shining. I was bragging about that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the sun finally. Maybe some stuff will dry out around here a little bit.
We've had a lot of rain.
What I was calling about, you mentioned the infrastructure repairs that need to be done. We've got about $3 trillion worth of infrastructure repairs that need to be done. Roads, bridges, dams. water mains, gas lines. I mean, there's just incredible the amount of repairs and maintenance that need to be done on all this stuff. But the powers, the controlling economic powers, the deep state, as you call it, we always call it the shadow government, it doesn't put any money in their pockets, really. What it does, it puts money in the pockets of the people that have to do the repairs and have to do the maintenance and have to do the road construction, building, and bridge construction, what have you. And they don't want that money going in the hands of the people, and they don't want to improve the living conditions of the people of this country. They want to take us down, turn us into a third world country where you got to go to the town square to the well to get your water. You don't even have plumbing anymore in your house. That's what they're up to. Right. So they don't. You're not going to see anything spent on infrastructure. I know Trump wants to get stuff spent on infrastructure, but he can't spend what Congress won't give him. So.
Oh, they spent $1.3 trillion since September, so they're spending it somewhere. But I agree.
Really help us.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I don't even think the taxpayers. I mean, I said before, the airports. Why should people pay for that? The airline should pay for it, or a large portion of it. They shouldn't be subsidized, so they have brand new airports to fly into. Their home.
Their terminals.
Their home terminals,
and
so forth. So yeah, I mean it's and these road repairs, they want to increase their taxes. Well, what have you been doing with the past taxes? Explain where that money's been going.
Neil probably remembers that this is back a few years, and the Missourians have not forgotten. We kind of have a little attitude, a little chip on our shoulders, but we voted here for a tax on the roads. It's been at least 15 years ago, maybe 25. Anyway, they abused the money, and the upper echelon in Missouri got raises, and the roads, we saw a few roads, and all of a sudden those signs started coming down, Proposition A at work, and the roads didn't get done. And now they're all upset because every time they try to bring it up again, Missourians vote it down. Do you remember that, Neil?
Right. Oh, yeah. They ripped us off once, and we don't want to get ripped off again. Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing you're doing with this, the park system. They put a park in our county down here, bought up 2,000 acres with the promise that they were going to make all these improvements and road improvements and set up a park for campgrounds and all that. All they did was build an outhouse and a walking trail. And in the meantime, the money they do have, they're spending on buying up more land around the state. Instead of making the improvements they promised on the parks that they were buying the land up for, they're just using the money to buy more land. It's a matter of control, taking the land out of circulation so that people can't really use it.
Yep.
I think that's a common theme within your cities and so forth, because the same thing happened here in Berlin. They were talking about improving, having parks, doing RVs so they could get the tourists coming over from Ocean City and all this stuff. The only place you can get to the park is by going through town, and the town, you can barely get a car through. And the busy, because the main street is very narrow. So, but again, this was something that they were going to use, they were going to improve, and it was for the RV, it was for the, blah, 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 all this money was spent and so forth. And it's not even a logical, feasible idea. So that's a common theme. You're absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they also conned the county into paving the road to this park with the promise that once they opened the park, the state would take over the roadway and make it a state road. 10 miles of road, blacktop, that basically goes to nowhere, that the county now has to repair and maintain because the state won't take over maintenance on it until they open the park. And now they're claiming, we don't have the money to make the improvements so we can open the park to the tourist trade, and but they've still got the money to buy up more land. That they've got. But to improve what they already have, no, that money isn't there.
Remember, after we were into the Great Recession, you had Obama, you had, billions of dollars being given to local areas, so they were supposed to do some, I can't remember the term of the project, They were supposed to go out and rebuild bridges and so forth and whatnot. And there was a family member of mine that's what he did. He worked for the city. And they went out and did the contracting for the bridges and so forth. He says, we didn't repair anything. He says they were taking in all this money, and all we were basically doing is screwing up traffic and painting them, making them look like we were. Oh, he was furious. And he says, there's nothing I can do about it. He says, there's nothing I can do about it. He says, but they're just wasting their money. They're making people think that they were rebuilding these little bridges and so forth, and this was in Pennsylvania. And he says, all we're doing is painting them to make them look newer. And so, the same thing is going to happen again. You get this infrastructure money going, and who are the people that really end up suffering? It's the citizens, Nothing ever gets done properly.
Right.
Well, they.
We need to quit giving them. You need to quit giving the money to the feds to start with. Keep the money local and do what you need to make your improvements locally, and not let the feds have it, because they rip off 70% of it for administrative costs to begin with.
Well, that's what they did. They gave them to the cities and states, and they didn't do anything. They just painted the bridges. But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, they come in too with some of these federal grants and such, and they tell you we're going to give you money for this and money for that, and they get hooked into this Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030 or whatever you want to call it, and I know that's happened in some of these little communities, like Neil and I probably live in, so it's you got to be careful.
All right, anything else,
Neil?
Yeah.
No, that's basically what I called about.
All right, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you
Sure.
very much, Neil.
Thank you. I had another thing here, and I just thought it was, especially since we're always told there is no deep state here by Peterson. By Ralph Peters. There's no such thing as that. Well, I don't believe him. And while I will agree that the media goes crazy, this is just another curiosity, should we say. A former Marine has been charged in a shooting and a hit and run of a controversial individual, Seth Rich, which he was investigating. It says a former Marine who claims to have worked as a special agent with the Department of Energy has been charged with shooting and running over Republican lobbyist Jack Berkman, who conducted a controversial investigation of former DNC staffer Seth Rich's murder. Now, they've had a hard time investigating Seth's murder. I was seeing something about this, it was last year, several months back, and some of the things that the family's trying to get to the bottom of it, and they can't hardly get anybody because the police department isn't cooperating, and it's just kind of been hush-hushed and closed, and nobody's checking into this young man's death. It says here that Kevin Doherty, 46, was charged Monday with the use of a firearm and the commission of a felony and 2 counts of malicious wounding, according to a press release from the Arlington, Virginia Police Department, County Police Department. And I'm thinking, I guess shooting him wasn't enough. They had to run over him a couple of times and make sure he was dead. And this is somebody that was investigating Seth's murder, and I thought that was very interesting. Another one bites the dust in the wake of Hillary Clinton, it looks like. Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and nobody runs with that. And I told you prior to the program, there was also another person that was investigating the Fast and Furious with Eric Holder, and he was being brought around on a lot of the conservative programs yesterday because he was making statements, and it was just like, well, who does he have the right to make any type of statement? I mean, he's the only attorney general that was found in contempt in relationship by not giving up information on the Fast and Furious, and
it's a good thing they didn't fire him.
Yeah, it's a good thing he didn't lose his pension. I mean, it's just like, oh, good grief. Why would anybody pay any attention to him? But there was an investigator into Fast and Furious where they also found him in another plane. So.
Oh, gracious. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that everyone who goes, but you know what? It's, do you believe in coincidences? And,
and they are investigating that. They're bringing that open again. So you betcha it's on everybody's mind that, oh, really? Isn't that a coincidence?
Yep.
We have. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay. We have Joe in Arkansas. Joe, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm all right. And how are y'all?
Good.
Great.
Yeah, great. Okay, I wanted to comment on the story about the self-driving car killing somebody. And, there's an old saying that to err is human, but to really screw up, you need a computer. And what I've noticed, and I think a lot of people have noticed this, is that people tend to make small mistakes. But when technology screws up, it tends to make giant, huge mistakes. Like, for instance, I've heard a number of stories like this. For instance, heard a story some years ago about a woman in Belgium, and she went out for a drive, and she was wanting to go someplace about 6 miles from where she lived, and she followed her GPS, and her GPS took her something like 3,000 miles out of her way into Russia. And, you'd think she would have noticed it was something was wrong, but apparently she just kept on following that GPS.
Miles.
Until she was 3,000 miles away from home in Russia. And then I've heard of other cases where the GPS has told people to drive along railroad tracks and they've got hit by a train, or the GPS has told people to go over a cliff and they've gone over the cliff. Whereas you would think that human drivers, wouldn't tend to, if they were fully in control and, really watching out for what they were doing, human drivers wouldn't do such monstrously stupid things.
This driver would probably get lost, but I might know it before I was 3,000 miles gone. I might figure that out. Joe, thank you. That's a good point. We're going into a break. I hear the music. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning at 717-300-1218. And we'll be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it. Nations have fought for it. It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Thank you. We were talking about getting lost in GPS, and Melody never asks for directions, and I am always lost. So I keep the GPS close at hand and battery loaded, ready to go. So we had a few stories during the commercials. Anyway.
I remember we used to drive around, in various places that I lived, and on a Sunday, we'd hop up in the car, take the dogs, and just go driving up in the mountains with the idea that no matter what road you're on, it's going to come out somewhere.
Hopefully.
It's kind of like the river. If you're really lost, you get on the river, and it'll eventually take you to civilization. And very rarely did we ever not come to some place. And we were, many times we would get lost up in the mountains of, Arizona and Nevada and so forth when we used to go camping a lot and so forth. And some of the most beautiful places that you can find are places where roads, are very narrow dirt and climbing mountains and beautiful, beautiful areas in the West. I love the West for that. And I can remember we went down this one road. It was a logging road. There used to be a mine there. We went down this road. We pitched our tent and everything. And then we went further up because it was getting pretty, we had the trailer too, and we couldn't really go up this main road, the dirt road, because it was just too rough. So we camped, and then we went up there higher, and we saw where there was an old mining camp and so forth, a camp that had to have been, 150 years old, and they were the white birch trees. I think that's what they were.
I love white birch trees.
And they're very thin. They're not very wide trees.
No,
and there was this
usually in clumps.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was in a clump. And there was engravings on these trees. People's initials were on these trees, and some of them dated back like 70 years and 80 years, because they would have the dates like 1939, 1920, 1915. It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and fortunately not a lot of people found it, and it wasn't destroyed in any manner. It was like going back in time, and there's beautiful places in this country, and if you can get to them, I mean, they've cut off, and that's what we always found so frustrating, is they cut off so many of the roads. They'll barricade, they'll put the berms in so you can't go over and so forth. Lots of times we went around, but they put these berms up to where you couldn't get through. They keep you from the water. You're trying to find, sure, if you want to backpack and hike, that's fine, but we didn't. We wanted to drive there. And, sure, backpacking a little bit is okay, but, I didn't want to backpack 30 miles to get to someplace. But that was always frustrating, because they can control us from our lands, and they keep us from our lands. And
right. They're trying to take it all. But those are that, when you do some camping, we used to camp once in a while, not like that, not that was extreme camping. But anyway, we did once in a while because it was cheap. It was a cheap vacation with the kids. But I love white birch. That kind of brings back memories. And I'm going to fuss about my husband, because I have always wanted a white birch clump tree in the yard. And he never seems to think that's a good idea, but he'll go get his dogwood or his redbud or something else. But I want the white birch. I like white birch trees. I think they're pretty.
Oh, they're beautiful, but it was just fascinating to see. And it just wasn't one engraving. I bet there was 100. I bet there was there was at least 100 different. I mean, it was awesome. I couldn't tell you today where it was at. Because we just driving around, and we would see a dirt road going off up into the mountain. It's like, well, yeah, let's go there, and we just take this dirt road and follow it to as far as we could go. And the dogs always loved it. We didn't ever have to worry about the dogs, and so
interesting.
Anyway, it was
And you didn't need a GPS.
And we didn't need a GPS. The more lost we got, the better it was.
Bottom line was we didn't need a GPS. We didn't need to ask for directions.
No.
But, all right. What you got?
Next? I don't have anything.
Well, that's what I gave it all.
Do we have a talk show?
What did you contribute today? I brought it all to the table. Well, Peter Schweitzer has written another book, and it's coming out, and it's going to be very interesting. You know, this guy, he does some heavy investigating. I'm surprised he's still alive, because he's the one who wrote Clinton Cash and really divulged what was going on with the Clinton Foundation and some of the things that were going on there. Well, this is looking inside some of the shady private equity firm run by Kerry and Biden's kids and how they benefited from their father's positions in the government high up in the United States, and how they so it's really going to be interesting. And and then Peter says there's no deep state. There's nothing going on. It's just like, really? Seriously?
D.C. is deep state, and but we talked about that book yesterday.
I was going to say deep something else, but
we talked about that book with Greg Hunter on our financial survival program yesterday, and it was a great program. And if you'd like to listen to the archive, you can go there, dgscoins.com, dgscoins.com. Go to the radio page and look up at the archives for yesterday's program, which would have been March 20th, and it was a great program. Greg Hunter always has when he's on our show once a month, and he just does an awesome job, and people really enjoy listening to him, and he brings a lot of great information. So if you'd like to listen to that, you can find it there. So, and his website,
gscoins.com.
And Greg Hunter's website is usawatchdog.com, usawatchdog.com. So he does an awesome job. He does a lot of interviews, and I don't agree with all of any of the interviews that he does. There's, some on there that, are just 100% cryptos. They believe in cryptos, and, but he has a very well-rounded, because, where one person might be, 100% in cryptos, there's the other person that isn't. So, he does a great job, probably one of the better websites on the Internet, I think, for trying to get to the truth of
we need to hone in on those that are like that, and we're not going to agree with everybody on everything. That's just the way it is, and that's what makes life interesting. We'd be pretty boring if we all were the same and agreed on everything. So
and the key thing is, we don't have to agree, but I never try to force my beliefs on someone else that doesn't believe that way. The whole point of talking, we do learn, and we have to be open for learning, and it's challenges, particularly when many of them are your family members and so forth. So I think books sometimes is a great way to help people, instead of hearing you lecture them about what you believe, say, here's a book, and go read it. And let them form their opinion, and eventually, they come around. And it was just like that. Greg Hunter talked about the poll of what 74% of the people. I'm not sure if we talked about that on this program or not. Believe there was a deep state. Well, prior to that poll, the same people, the number was about 30-something%. And then they explained to the people, because the people didn't know what the deep state was. They didn't understand, so they were educated on what the deep state was. And then the numbers skyrocketed to the people that believed that that is exactly what we have in D.C. So it was proof that people, a lot of our problems are people don't understand. People don't, they need the education because they're not getting it on the mainstream media and so forth. So I thought that was it was a very important poll, and to see the difference in the two, and it shows what a little education can do.
And it is important to have that, and it's the language, if you just go up to somebody and say deep state, I mean, the language is what are you talking about, But then when they see what's going on, I think I think even the average American knows that their elected officials aren't representing them. I think even the average Joe knows that. That's just not going on.
And that's why the same ones keep getting elected, because people feel there's nothing they can do. And I hear this all the time. Why vote?
Mm-hmm.
My vote means nothing, so why should I, go out of my way, miss work and so forth to go vote? And the same ones keep getting elected. So it's all it's propaganda. That's what I can remember as a little child. People adults saying, oh, everyone is so corrupt, the politicians lie, there's nothing we can do about it and so forth.
Now,
that's propaganda. That's what
make jokes about the politicians and the used salesmen, and we are out of time. The music is playing, Melody. We will be back tomorrow morning with Power Talks and as much truth as we can find. And Melody and Beth, you have a good day, and we'll be right back.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.